Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana-salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudapadakkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrijatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानं पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमः विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासारि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Okay, Haribo. Today we continue with the chapter 6, I think, or 5. Which one it is? Okay, let's check. To be sure, chapter 6. Haribo. उद्धरेदात्मनात्मानं नात्मानम् अवसादयेत् आत्मैव ह्यात्मनो बन्धुरात्मैव रिपुरात्मना. Uddaret, one must deliver. Atmana, by the mind. Atmanam, the conditioned soul. Na, never. Atmanam, the conditioned soul. Avasadayet, put into degradation. Atma, mind. Ever certain. He indeed. Atmanaha, of the conditioned soul. Bandhu, friend. Atma, mind. Eva, certainly. Ripuhu, enemy. Atmanaha, of the conditioned soul. Translation. A man must elevate himself by his own mind, not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. Purport. The word Atma denotes body, mind, and soul, depending upon different circumstances. In the yoga system, the mind and the conditioned soul are especially important. Since the mind is the central point of yoga practice, Atma refers here to the mind. The purpose of the yoga system is to control the mind and to draw it away from the attachment to sense objects. It is stressed herein that the mind must be so trained that it can deliver the conditioned soul from the mire of nescience. In material existence, one is subjected to the influence of the mind and the senses. In fact, the pure soul is entangled in the material world because of the mind's ego, which desires to lord it over the material nature. Therefore, the mind should be trained so that it will not be attracted by the glitter of material nature, and in this way, the conditioned soul may be saved. One should not degrade oneself by attraction to sense objects. The more one is attracted by sense objects, the more one becomes entangled in material existence. The best way to disentangle oneself is to always engage the mind in Krishna consciousness. The word he is used for emphasizing this point, that one must do this. It's also said, Mana eva manushyanam karanam bandhamukshyo bandaya vishaya sango muktiyai nirvishayam mana. For man, mind is the cause of bondage, and mind is the cause of liberation. Mind absorbed in sense objects is the cause of bondage, and mind detached from sense objects is the cause of liberation. Therefore, the mind which is always engaged in Krishna consciousness is the cause of supreme liberation. Text number 6. Bandhur atmatmanastasya jenatmaivatmana jita anatmanastu shatru anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatruvad. Word. Bandhu, friend, Atma, mind, Atmanaha, of the living entity, Tasya, of him, Yena, by whom, Atma, mind, Eva, certainly, Atmana, by the living entity, Jitaha, conquered, Anatmanaha, of one who has failed to control the mind, two, but, Shatrutve, because of enmity, Parteta, remains, Atma, Eva, the very mind, Shatrutva, as an enemy. Translation. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends, but for one who has failed to do so, his very mind will be the greatest enemy. Purport. The purpose of practicing Eightfold Yoga is to control the mind in order to make it a friend in discharging the human mission. Unless the mind is controlled, the practice of yoga for show is simply a waste of time. One who cannot control his mind lives always with the greatest enemy, and thus his life and its missions are spoiled. The constitutional position of the living entity is to carry out the order of the superior. As long as one's mind remains as unconquered enemy, one has to serve the dictations of lust, anger, avarice, illusion, etc. But when the mind is conquered, one voluntarily agrees to abide by the dictation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated within the heart of everyone as Paramatma. Real yoga practice entails meeting the Paramatma within the heart and then following his dictation. For one who takes to Krishna consciousness directly, perfect surrender to the dictation of the Lord follows automatically. Text number 7. Chitatmana prashantasya paramatma samahita sitoshna sukha dukkeshu tata mana pamanayo. Chita atmanaha, of one who has conquered his mind, Prashantasya, of one who has attained tranquility by such control over the mind, Paramatma, the super soul, Samahita, approached completely, Shita, cold, Ushna, heat, Shuka, in happiness, Dukkeshu, in distress, Tata, also, Mana, honor, Apamanayo, in dishonor. Translation. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. Actually, every living entity is intended to abide by the dictation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is seated in everyone's heart as Paramatma. When the mind is misled by the external illusory energy, one becomes entangled in material activities. Therefore, as soon as one's mind is controlled through one of the yoga systems, one is to be considered as having already reached the destination. One has to abide by superior dictation. When one's mind is fixed on the superior nature, he has no other alternative but to follow the dictation of the Supreme. The mind must admit some superior dictation and follow it. The effect of controlling the mind is that one automatically follows the dictation of the Paramatma or Super Soul. Because this transcendental position is at once achieved by one who is in Krishna consciousness, the devotee of the Lord is unaffected by the dualities of material existence, namely distress and happiness, cold and heat, etc. This state is practical samadhi or absorption in the Supreme. Text number 8. Jnana Vijnana Triptatma Kutasto Vichitendriya Yukta iti Uchyate Yogi Samalostrasma Kanchana. Word to word. Jana, required, acquired knowledge. Vijnana, realized knowledge. Tripta, satisfied. Atma, living entity. Kutashta, spiritually situated. Vijita, indriya, sensually controlled. Yukta, competent for self-realization. Iti, thus. Uchyate, is said. Yogi, the mystic. Sama, equiposed. Lostra, pebbles. Asma, stone. Kanchana, gold. Translation. A person is said to be established in the self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same. Purport. Book knowledge without realization of the supreme truth is useless. This is stated as follows. Atah Sri Krishna Namadina Bhaved Grahyam Indriyae Sevanmukhe Jihvado Swayameva Spurat Yada. One can understand the transcendental nature of the name, form, quality, and pastimes of Sri Krishna through his material contaminated senses only when one becomes spiritually saturated by transcendental service to the Lord are the transcendental name, form, quality, and pastimes of the Lord revealed to him. Padma Purana. This Bhagavad Gita is the science of Krishna consciousness. No one can become Krishna conscious simply by mundane scholarship. One must be fortunate enough to associate with a person who is in pure consciousness. A Krishna conscious person has realized knowledge, but by the grace of Krishna, because he is satisfied with pure devotional service. By realized knowledge, one becomes perfect. By transcendental knowledge, one can remain steady in his convictions, but by mere academic knowledge, one can be easily deluded and confused by apparent contradictions. It is the self-realized soul who is actually self-controlled because he is surrendered to Krishna. He is transcendental because he has nothing to do with mundane scholarship. For him, mundane scholarship and mental speculation, which may be as good as gold to others, are of no greater value than pebbles or stones. Text number 9. सुहृन्मित्रार्युदासीना माध्यस्थाद्वेष्य बन्धुषु साधुष्वापि च पापेषु समबुद्धिर्विशिष्यते. Suhrit by nature, a well-wisher. Mitra, benefactor with affection. Ari, enemy. Udashina, neutral between the belligerents. Madhyashta, mediator between the belligerents. Devveshya, envious. Bandhushu, among the relatives or well-wishers. Sadhusu, unto the pious. Api, as well as. Cha and Papeshu, unto the sinners. Sama buddhi, having equal intelligence. Vishishyate is far advanced. Translation. A person is said to be still further advanced when he regards all the honest, well-wisher, friends and enemies, the envious, the pious, the sinner, and those who are indifferent and impartial with an equal mind. Hmm. Samabuddhir. योगी युञ्जित सततम् आत्मनं रहसि स्थिता एकाकी यत चित्तात्मा निराशिरपि अपरिग्रहा. Yogi, a transcendentalist, Yunjita must concentrate in Krishna consciousness, Satatam constantly, Atmanam himself by the body, mind and self, Rahasi in a secluded place, Titaha being so situated, Ekaki alone, Yata Chittatma always careful in mind, Nirashihi without being attracted by anything else. Aparigraha, free from the feeling of possessiveness. Translation. A transcendentalist should always try to concentrate his mind on the Supreme Self. He should live alone in a secluded place and should always carefully control his mind. He should be free from desires and feelings of possessiveness. Krishna is realized in different degrees as Brahman, Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna consciousness means, concisely, to be always engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. But those who are attached to the impersonal Brahman or the localized Supersoul are as partially Krishna conscious, are also partially Krishna conscious, because impersonal Brahman is the spiritual ray of Krishna, and Supersoul is the all-pervading partial expansion of Krishna. Thus the impersonalist and the meditator are also indirectly Krishna conscious. A directly Krishna conscious person is the topmost transcendentalist because such a devotee knows what is meant by Brahman or Paramatma. His knowledge of the Absolute Truth is perfect, whereas the impersonalist and the meditative yogi are imperfectly Krishna conscious. Nevertheless, all of these are instructed herewith to be constantly engaged in their particular pursuits so that they may come to the highest perfection sooner or later. The first business of a transcendentalist is to keep the mind always on Krishna. One should always think of Krishna and not forget him, even for a moment. Concentration of the mind on the Supreme is called samadhi or trance. In order to concentrate the mind, one should always remain in seclusion and avoid disturbance by external objects. He should always he should be very careful to accept favorable and reject unfavorable conditions that affect his realization. And in perfect determination, he should not hanker after unnecessary material things that entangle him by feelings of possessiveness. All these perfections are and precautions are perfectly executed when one is directly in Krishna consciousness. Because direct Krishna consciousness means self abnegation, wherein there is very little chance for material possessiveness. Srila Rupa Goswami characterizes Krishna consciousness in this way. अनासक्तस्य विषयान् यथार्हम् उपयुञ्जता निर्बन्धा कृष्णसम्बन्धे युक्तं वैराग्यमुच्यते प्रपाशीकतया बुद्ध्या हरिसम्बन्धिवस्तुना मुमुक्षुभिः परित्यागो वैराग्यं फल्गु कथ्यते. Bhaktirasamrita Sindhu 200 256. When one is not attached to anything, but at the same time accepts everything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. On the other hand, one who rejects everything without knowledge of its relationship to Krishna is not as complete in his renunciation. A Krishna conscious person well knows that everything belongs to Krishna and thus is always free from feelings of personal possessions. As such, he has no hankering for anything on his own personal account. He knows how to accept things in favor of Krishna consciousness and how to reject things unfavorable to Krishna consciousness. He is always aloof from material things because he is always transcendental and is always alone, and he is always alone, having nothing to do with persons not in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, a person in Krishna consciousness is the perfect yogi. शुचौ देशे प्रतिष्ठाप्य स्थिरम् आसनम् आत्मना नात्युच्छ्रितं नातिनीचं शैलाजिनाकुशोत्तरम् तत्र एकाग्रं मनः कृत्वा यथा चित्तेन्द्रिया क्रिया उपाविश्यासने युञ्जात् योगमात्मविशुद्धये शुचौ in sanctified, deshe in the land, pratishtapya placing, shtiram firm, asanam seat, atmana self-dependent, na not, ati two, uchritam high, na nor, ati two, nicham low, chaila ajina soft cloth and deer skin, kushottaram kusha Kushottaram Kushagras Tatra Thirapan Ekagram one attention Manaha mind Kritva doing so Yatachitta controlling the mind Indriya senses Kriyaha activities Upavishya sitting on Asane on the seat Junjad execute Yogam yoga practice Atma heart Vishuddhaye for clarifying. Translation. To practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place and should lay kusha grass on the ground and then cover it with a deerskin and a soft cloth. The seat should neither be too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and should practice yoga by controlling the mind and the senses, purifying the heart and fixing the mind on one point. Purport. Sacred place refers to place of pilgrimage. In India, the yogis, the transcendentalists, or the devotees all live home and reside in sacred places such as Prayag, Mathura, Vrindavan, Rishikesh, and Haridwar, and in solitude practice yoga where the sacred rivers like the Yamuna and the Ganga flow. But often this is not possible, especially for Westerners. The so-called yoga societies in big cities may be successful in earning material benefit, but they are not at all suitable for the actual practice of yoga. One who is not self-controlled and whose mind is not undisturbed cannot practice meditation. Therefore, in the Brihadaranyaka Purana, it is said that in the Kali Yuga, the present Yuga or age, when people in general are short-lived, slow in spiritual realization, and always disturbed by various anxieties, the best means of spiritual realization is chanting the holy name of the Lord. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam, kalaunas devanas devanas eva gatiranyata. In this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance is chanting the holy name of the Lord. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. Caribou. Now we will go to six Astakam prayers. चेतो दर्पणमार्जनं पवमहादावाग्निर्वापनं श्रेयः कैरवचन्द्रिका वितरणं विद्यावधूजीवनम् अनन्तं बुद्धिवर्धनं प्रतिपदं पूर्णामृतस्वादनं सर्वात्मस्नपनं परं विजयते श्रीकृष्णसङ्कीर्तनम् नामकारि बहुधा निज सर्वशक्ति तत्रार्पितानि अमिता स्मरणेन काला एतादृशी तव कृपा भगवन् ममापि दुर्दैवं मिदृशमिहाजानिनानुरागः तृणादपि सुनीचेन तरोरपि सहिष्णुना अमानिना मानदेन कीर्तनीया सदा हरि न धनं न जनं न सुन्दरीं कवितं वा जगदीश कामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरे भवताद्भक्तिरहैतुकी त्वयि अयि नन्दतनुजा किङ्करं पतितं मां विषमे भवाम्बुधौ कृपया तव पादपङ्कजा स्थितधूलिसदृशं विचिन्तय नयनं गलदश्रुधारया वदनं गद्गदहृदया गिरा पुलकैर्निचितं वपुः कदा तव नाम गृहणे भविष्यति युगायितं निमेषेण चक्षुषा प्राविर्ष्यायितं शून्यायितं जगत्सर्वं गोविन्दविरहेण मे आश्लिष्य वा पादरतं पिनस्तु मामदर्शनन्मर्महतं करोतु वा यथा तथा वा विदधातु लम्पतो मत्प्राणनाथस्तु स एव न परः Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. The Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, bird after bird. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separations, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Haribo. Sri Siksastakam ki jai. First offense, to blaspheme the devotees who had dedicated their lives for propagating the holy name of the Lord. Second offense, to consider the names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to be equal or to or independent of the name of the Lord Vishnu. Third offense is to disobey the order of the spiritual master. Fourth offense, to blaspheme the Vedic scriptures or scriptures in persons to the Vedic version. Fifth offense, to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be an imagination. Sixth offense, to give some interpretation to the holy name of the Lord. Seventh offense, to commit sinful activities on the strength of the holy name. Eighth offense, to consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in the Vedas as spiritual activities.
To instruct a faceless
Oh,
person about the glories of the holy name.
Hare Krishna, Bhagavad, Krishna Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, please accept number obeisances of glories to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhu, are you alone?
Yes, Prabhu, no one is joining today. I don't know what happened.
It's His Grace Sundar Gopal Prabhu, Prabhu. He came with energy.
Yes, Prabhu. I read like 40 minutes.
Oh, were you reading alone like all along?
Yes, Prabhu, no one joined. I was waiting for someone.
Oh,
You.
I'm the lucky one.
Yes, Prabhu, you joined that last minute.
Let me read the 10th one. To not have complete faith in the chanting of the holy name and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must guard against these offenses in order to quickly achieve their desired success. Krishna Prema.
Prabhu, let us offer humble obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who are just like desired trees, who can fulfill all desires and are full of compassion for the fallen souls, conditioned souls.
Prabhu,
Vanchakalpitra kripa sindhubhya cha Titanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Reward Prabhu. I say His Grace Sundar Gopal Prabhu was like it's like he was making jokes today.
Yes, Prabhu, it was really nice Q&A today.
Yeah, it was nice today, Prabhu.
Yes, I did rewatch it.
Oh yes, I'm also please share the link. Oh, but then it was live on YouTube.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, Prabhu, I'll find it.
Sri Gurun Vaishnava.
That one.
People expect God to be all perfect where he shows no anger.
Yes, Prabhu, this one.
Lord Shiva exhibited anger by beheading Ganesh. How can
Okay, now I will listen
Yeah.
to it and we'll get ready to go to the market.
Okay, Prabhu, and I'll be leaving. I need to go to the market too now.
Okay, yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much for your
Yes.
assistance. See you tomorrow. Jai Shri
Thank you, Prabhu, for Precious Association. Haribo.
Prabhu.